The first update we have today is the legal challenges facing Eddie Osefo and the status of his law license. So, recent reports really clarified the serious legal risks Eddie Osefo and his wife Wendy are facing right now. This all follows their arrest on some pretty serious fraud charges linked to what's being called an alleged staged robbery. Okay, so here's the deal. The couple, both 41, got arrested recently. The charges include insurance fraud, conspiracy insurance fraud, and making a false statement to a police officer. Now, this all seems to stem from an incident back in April 2024, an alleged robbery at their home. Prosecutors apparently think this might have been staged, possibly, to collect a huge $450,000 in insurance money. And wow, this situation immediately illuminates what this could mean for Eddie's career. You see, he's got a DC law license, which he's had since 2014, and that's really on the line now. Two attorneys, who aren't involved in the case, by the way, basically said that if he gets convicted or pleads guilty to a felony, especially what they call a serious crime involving moral turpitude, like professional dishonesty, well, that could totally push the Washington, D.C. disciplinary board to take action. And that action could mean, even disbarment, like losing his ability to practice law altogether. After they were released, their rep did say they're home safe and doing okay, just asking for some privacy while they focus on their family and, deal with all the legal stuff ahead. Before we get into the next update, I need to check in with you all. If you're enjoying our little tea session, take a millisecond to hit the like button and subscribe to join the best reality TV community on YouTube. Done? Let's move on to next update now.
Okay, next we are going to talk about how two prominent figures from the Real Housewives of Orange County, Tamra Judge and Alexis Bellino, are speaking out about the show's editing and, hidden storylines. So, Tamra Judge, right, she's been on the show the longest. Well, she was talking on her podcast, Toot Seat, and basically said producers only show her really aggressive side, the FU personality. She kind of admits she took on that villain role like 17 years ago, but feels the show totally skips over the good stuff like her being a good mom or checking in on friends. She thinks this editing keeps her stuck as the villain, especially with all the past drama. People criticizing how she treated Shannon Bedour, and even now slamming Shannon for holding a grudge. And then her friend, Alexis Bellino, she totally backs this up. Alexis says she got pushed into being the ditz, even though she has a degree. She feels like her storyline was just skewed, It all centered around her relationship with John Jansen, who's now her husband, but was suing Shannon Bedour back then. Alexis thinks viewers didn't like her because the show gave her this weird edit, focusing on her defending John, kind of making her seem callous maybe, without the full story. Now here's the interesting part. Tamra really thinks the show messed up by not bringing Alexis back, and she blames it squarely on, quote, the Shannon Bedour of it all. Alexis pretty much agrees. She's saying, look, if John Jansen wasn't even in the picture, or if her storyline hadn't been so off, maybe viewers would have liked her more. So yeah, it sounds like both of them feel the editors are really pulling the strings, not necessarily showing who they truly are. So this was today's update about Tamra Judge and Alexis Bellino's claims on RHOC editing. Let's now move on to next update.
Next, we are going to talk about major drama brewing around the Real Housewives of Miami and some, shocking financial allegations. Okay, so this really centers on former castmate Anna Quincosis and some pretty explosive claims she made about Marysol Patton's role on the show. Since the reboot back in 2021, lots of fans and even other cast members have noticed how fiercely Marysol defends Alexia Napola. So Anna went on the Reality Court podcast and dropped this bombshell. She claimed that when the show came back for season 4, after that long break, Marysol actually wasn't even considered to be a housewife or even a friend of the show, at all. But according to Anna, Alexia Napola stepped in. She apparently insisted Marysol had to be included, and here's the kicker. Anna claims Alexia actually gave up part of her own salary to make it happen. Specifically, $1,000 per episode from her own paycheck, which Anna said was apparently around $30,000 an episode. Wow. And Anna mentioned this wasn't just her take. She said this whole secret deal was confirmed to her by 2 other people. So this whole thing, if it's true, kind of explains why Marysol might be so ride or die for Alexia, right? Anna even described Marysol's role as being like a lady-in-waiting for Alexia, grabbing her purse, carrying her umbrella, even helping her out of a car like she did in Spang. Basically suggesting Marysol is kind of on salary for Alexia. And you can see how this claim really illuminates some of the current tensions, like castmate Adriana Demora accusing Marysol of trying to get her kicked off. And remember, back in July when Dr. Nicole Martin claimed a coworker hired a PI to try and get her demoted, fans definitely speculated that was Marysol. So this was today's update about Anna Quincosis's claims that Alexia Nepola gave up salary to secure Marysol Patton's spot on RHOM. Let's now move on to next update. Next, we are going to talk about Tamra Judge addressing her husband Eddie Judge's concerns regarding her drinking and an update on their daughter, Sophia Barney. So you might remember on a recent Real Housewives of Orange County episode, Eddie, who's 52, kind of called Tamra out, saying maybe she shouldn't drink because it makes her mean. Ouch, right? Well, Tamra, who's 58, hopped on the RHOC after show to talk about it. She was like, honestly, I don't even remember that conversation. She insists they're really not big drinkers at all, saying they're usually in bed by 8, and maybe share one glass of wine if they go out to eat. And her friend, Gina Kirschenheiter, who's 41, totally backed her up. Gina said people are always kind of shocked because Tamra doesn't even drink that much. Tamra explained that ever since Eddie's heart issues, he thinks alcohol is basically poison, and honestly, she's gotten to a point where she just doesn't really feel like drinking much herself. Okay, switching gears a bit. Tamra also gave us an update on her daughter, Sophia Barney. Sophia is 20 now, and she's actually moved back home, living in their casita. She's going to school and working as a hostess. And there's a new development. Sophia's got a new boyfriend, Nico, and Tamra says she's totally in love. Turns out, Nico goes to Cal State Fullerton. That's where her brother Spencer went, and it's a school Sophia's now thinking about, maybe instead of music school. Tamra kind of suspects Sophia only wanted to move back into the casino. Remember she moved out before because it felt too far away? Well, Tamra thinks it's probably just for easy access to Nico now. Funny how that works, right? Nico apparently thinks moving to New York would be cool, but Tamra figures Sophia might just stick around at Cal State Fullerton to be close to him. So this was today's update about Tamra Judge and her family. Let's now move on to next update.
Next, we are going to talk about Aaron Phypers, the estranged husband of Denise Richards, and the details surrounding his recent arrest and release. So, Aaron Phypers was actually arrested Friday afternoon in Los Angeles, right in the middle of a court hearing. He didn't stay long, though. He was released Friday night, maybe around 9:30 p.m. from the Lost Hills Sheriff's Station after posting a $200,000 bond. Now, this arrest? It was based on a felony warrant from the state of California. His attorney, Michael Finley, believes it's all connected to those physical abuse allegations Denise Richards made, stemming from their pretty contentious divorce. There's actually an 8-page criminal complaint that was filed back on October 16th. It includes 4 specific charges: 2 counts of injuring a spouse, cohabitant, fiancé, boyfriend, girlfriend, or child's parent, and another 2 counts of dissuading a witness by force or threat. Regarding these charges, 3 of the alleged incidents supposedly happened on January 17, 2022, and 1 happened on May 3, 2022. Phypers' attorney, Michael Finley, is arguing that these allegations are just false, and he fully expects Aaron to be exonerated. He even suggested Denise's legal team kinda set the whole thing up. Meanwhile, the judge did grant Denise's request to continue her temporary restraining order against Aaron, extending it until November 7th. And interestingly, shortly after Aaron was released on bail, TMZ got a photo depicting him smiling alongside an unnamed woman. So this was today's update about Aaron Phypers' legal developments. Let's now move on to next update. Next, we are going to talk about Real Housewives of Potomac stars Wendy and Eddie Osefo, who recently broke their silence on Instagram, following those fraud arrests. Yeah, the couple, they're both 41. They were actually taken into custody just over a week ago. And the charges? They stem from that potentially staged home robbery back in April 2024. So Wendy was the first one to speak out. This was on Sunday, October 19th. She posted on Instagram basically expressing gratitude for all the outpouring of love, support, and prayers for her family. She mentioned that God remains faithful, and interestingly, she also used the post to kind of nudge her followers, telling them to tune in to the new RHOP episode that night. Then, about an hour later, Eddie shared his own statement. His was different though. It was a direct quote from Scripture, Proverbs 3:5-6, all about trusting in the Lord and having faith. And, the response from their co-stars, pretty immediate. Like Stacey Rusch commented, "Love you," on Wendy's post. And Wendy replied right back, calling Stacey a true friend and sister. There was also support from Jacqueline Blake, telling them to stay strong for them babies, and even Real Housewives of Atlanta stars Cynthia Bailey and Marlo Hampton chimed in with supportive emojis and messages. So this was today's update about the Osefo's response to their recent arrests. Let's now move on to next update.
Next, we are going to talk about Bronwyn Newport's reflections on her marriage and some really tough family loss she's been dealing with. So Bronwyn, the fashion-forward housewife, she recently spoke to US Weekly. And she really illuminated the emotional toll of talking about her marriage while also navigating some pretty profound family changes. Okay, so she clarified something big from a past season, saying her husband, Todd Bradley, didn't actually have a physical affair, it was more emotional. Remember when she opened up to the women in Puerto Vallarta about their past issues? Well, she felt a real connection then, but sharing like that, it's just not natural for her, and she kind of wishes now that whole public vulnerability thing had gone differently. Plus, it adds stress because both her husband and daughter aren't huge fans of her being on reality TV. Todd especially struggles apparently, watching her argue with the cast and then just letting it go. And layered on top of all that marital pressure, major family struggles back home. While filming season 6, Bronwyn was going through the incredibly painful process of losing her father, who actually passed away shortly after filming finished. He had Alzheimer's and dementia, which she described just heartbreakingly as the hardest, slowest, most miserable way to lose someone, like she lost him in little pieces. And at the same time, her mom was living with her and Todd. So Bronwyn's role totally shifted to caretaker, and she talked about how that loss of control was really destabilizing and made things tense with her mom too. So this was today's update about Bronwyn Newport's recent reflections. Let's now move on to next update.
Okay, next we're going to talk about Ashley Darby and what she's been saying in some recent interviews, especially about Stacey Rusch and Mauricio Umansky. So Ashley has been pretty open about her complicated relationship with Stacey Rusch. She says, she genuinely likes her, wants to hug her even, but she can't get over what she feels are lies. Ashley actually suggested Stacey might be kind of fabricating parts of her life, maybe because she feels like she needs to be more interesting for the group. And get this, Ashley mentions someone she knows in DC reached out claiming they have receipts and know about Stacey's alleged lies through the decades. It just illustrates, as Ashley put it, that the streets talk. Then, switching gears a bit, there's the whole buzz around Mauricio Umansky's appearance and his rumored thing with Giselle Bryant. Ashley calls Mauricio a smooth cat, right? And she thinks he and Giselle definitely had some kind of friendship before all this. She also mentioned that Giselle had already talked about Mauricio on her Reasonably Shady podcast. And she's wondering, did that stir up any choppy water with Kyle Richards? Ashley said she's ready to watch that episode just to figure out what's happening. And just a quick personal update from Ashley, she shared that since her divorce is official, her whole approach to dating has gotten more serious. She's 37 now, ready for something real, which clarifies it's a shift from when she was just dating for fun while separated, like that fling she had with Ralph Mastrangelo.